everything's been said. Everything, and it's all good stuff. So I'll just reiterate some of the things. First of all, I worked on the North America European report. This is the blue agriculture at the crossroads. There's stuff down there. If you are looking for the simple introduction to the ISTAT report, pick up one of these. These have several issue briefs that I have even judged useful for my class, undergraduate class in sustainable agriculture, because it's accessible. So please come pick up some of these things and look at what the ISTAT reports say. I want to talk about 3 specific options for action, because one of the things that the ISTAT did was to, here's some options for actions for governments. If you do some of these things, you may get this. If you don't do it, you may get what Hans was referring to before. So from North America, Europe, one of the subglobal reports, I want to talk about 3 specific things. I'm going to give some examples because we're heavily academic in the report, and that can be a little on the esoteric side. So I'll try to give some examples. First of all, we got to think about reshaping knowledge systems, and this has been said several different ways tonight. But this is crucial, because we're talking about knowledge systems valuing knowledge that arises in all formats. And that means formal knowledge, knowledge that's generated from the scientific arena through rigorous trials, through rigorous scientific testing. It also means appreciating and valuing knowledge that arises from the grassroots, from indigenous knowledge, from farmers' experiences, from limited resource folks experiencing gaining access to food. These are all forms of knowledge. They need to be combined and they need to be appreciated. And to do that, we are going to have support for research that is practical, that's geared to local needs. It means changing a lot of incentive structures across universities, across USDA, and across the business world. So we really have to rethink that, and that's exactly what Dr. Sanchez said yesterday, and he's coming at it from a health perspective. And to do that, you have to have a range of stakeholders involved. So any of you out there, you need to volunteer for any land grant technical committees. You need to get involved and sit on there and talk about what your needs are for knowledge systems. Another place that we need, another large area, and this is what Alexandra also referred to, is that we have to think about reconfiguring policy and governance frameworks. And this is crucial. If you think about the highly integrated and coordinated global value chains that exist, global production networks that exist across the world, most of the dominant actors in them are based in the developing world and primarily based in North America and Europe. These, because of the integration of these chains, these actors can capture a larger share of the overall value, particularly in processed agricultural products. So we've got to make those chains more equitable. We are going to have to think about policy, competition policy in particular, and market reform that allows other actors, particularly small-scale farmers, to capture more of the value in those chains. And this is going to be competition policy, but it also is talking about market reform and the development of local and regional markets. The support for the diversity of scale in agricultural enterprise is absolutely crucial here. I also think, and what the report said in the North America European arena, is we're relying on a system of intellectual property rights that are global in nature. They are not specific to, they're not tailored for the development needs of specific countries or regions. Those are going to have to be rethought because they're not workable for smallholders across the world as they are. And essentially what this means as we start to talk about policy and governance is that we have to take our eye off the simple notion of agricultural productivity. Hans said this, Alexandra said this, we can say this, we have to keep saying this, because if we just focus on agricultural productivity, and a lot of my very wonderful colleagues at the University of Missouri are focusing on productivity. They're doing a great job, but if we don't take our eye off of that and put it in the broader framework, the multifunctional agriculture that Hans mentioned, we have to think of agriculture, health, and environment together, or we're not going to get anywhere. And that includes thinking about how we can internalize social and environmental costs as well, rather than externalize them as we have done. And finally, this should warm all of the attendees of the Community Food Security Coalition. One of the ways we talked about in the North America European report to we have to figure out ways to devise more stakeholder input into local governance issues. So how can we do that? What did we talk about on Saturday? Come on, what did we talk about? Food policy councils. They made it into the ISTAT, and I just want you to know that. That's really important because they were an option for action. And this translates at the same time as we focus on these local governance issues and getting more stakeholder input, we have to think about how we're going to collaborate more at the international level as well. And that's what Alexandria was talking about. Finally, we have to think about redirecting and increasing investments in agricultural knowledge, science, and technology systems. And this is really important. We know, for example, I'll just take one thing, but we know, for example, that public breeding programs actually generate many rewards across the board for a number of farmers, for many farmers. And they don't, you know, a lot of the investments we're making in breeding programs now, they're generating rewards for, or intellectual property, I should say, for just a few people. So just a simple step to really redirect our investments in breeding programs is a small example of how we could do this. And I'm talking about breeding programs for crops and for animals. So again, productivity should not be our only idea, our only reason for doing research. We have to think about how research is going to increase equity, how we can change the context and what knowledge systems are developed and how they are implemented and laid down. And this means we're going to have to think about some new benchmarks. And quite frankly, when I read some of the things coming out from USDA, I don't see that many of the options for actions that are included in the ISTAT findings are there, because we need to lay down new benchmarks in terms of funding research on the development of knowledge systems that really link the multifunctionality of agriculture, that really link health, environment, agriculture, and economy together. So those are three broad areas, and it's not easy. It's going to take a lot of work. And we have made these as accessible as we can. We have laid out a number of different options for folks. Now our agenda is, I believe, we should be taking these to policymakers and saying, look, here's a roadmap. Here's a roadmap for how we can think about agriculture and food systems in the future that are equitable, that are sustainable, that address poverty and hunger issues around the world. So thank you very much. Appreciated being here.